You're a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Know's what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Just been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Frosty, and alongside me, as always, is our good friend, good friendy. That's when you have a friend and a buddy. our good friend Corey.
What's going on, brother?
And also in here with us, last but certainly not least, is Tony.
Hello.
So what's up, fellas?
Not much, man. Not much.
Week 2 of Zombie Week. You guys excited?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yes,
Like everyone loves a good zombie film, you know? Like, even if you're not a horror movie aficionado, at some point in your life, there might have been a time that you were either into or just never got out of the whole zombie craze, right? Whether it be old school zombie movies like Romero films, Fulci films, or if it was maybe The Walking Dead, help get you into it.
Yeah,
I've always been a big zombie movie fan.
They've become so mainstream now that, you know, a lot of people have just gravitated to this stuff, and you know, I don't know, I mean, I would even throw the Resident Evil games in there. Like, those kind of catapulted how popular the zombies became, and
Absolutely.
You know, everybody loves zombies now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the cool thing about those games too is they were designed by Japanese developers who were very in tune with horror films and especially like old school campy corny films, and they really, like, you know, put that in their games. That's why if you go back and you play the old Resident Evil games, like, they're super corny, like their lines are all slow and boxy, you know, like, what is it? Blood. Hope it isn't Chris's blood. You know, like, just stuff like that. But it just made for a classic game, you know, and you know, we've talked about it before, how, like, you go back and you watch old horror movies like Zombie 2, for instance, or some of the scenes were like, you know, zombie takes 10 minutes rising out of the ground, lady just stands there, doesn't run, and then gets bit on the neck. Yeah, and the whole time you're screaming, "Why are you standing there? Run!" But you know, that's what we love about it.
That's what we love about it, especially that movie in particular. But I can see it, like the Frozen in Terror thing. I get it. Like, I understand it happens to some people, but you know, still.
Well, just for the record, if I see a zombie rising out of the ground, my ass is gone. I'm falling collective ass.
I might pull a Shaun of the Dead and go get some records and just try and chunk them at them and see what happens.
Yeah,
that's another one. The Shaun of the Dead that like popularized zombies too. So like the mainstream. So yeah, between that, like we talked about, The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all that stuff like popularized them, and you know, the mainstream knows more about zombies now than they ever have before. So
yeah.
Well, that made zombies fun. It made it funny. It made it enjoyable, instead of like the you know, movies like this are very, like, there's comical moments, but it's certainly it's, you know, it's got the gore, you know, and it's got the moments that make you go, "What the hell was that?"
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, this film was more serious toned as well. I mean, it had a perfect mix, in my opinion, of there's a little bit of comical relief, but not as much as Dawn. It was more serious tone than anything.
Yeah.
And it really captivated, and we'll get into this a little bit more later on in the discussion, but it really captivated, I think, how certain people treat each other put in a situation, you know.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's a huge part of the movie, massive part of it.
And of course, listeners, we are talking about Day of the Dead. Was it 1985? This movie came out. Written and directed by the great one, George Romero. So we will be getting into that. But for now, thank you so much for listening. We are on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is growing. We have seen substantial growth in our numbers. So we just want to issue a shout out to each and every one of you who has been checking us out on YouTube, liking us, sharing, whatever it is you're doing. Just simply listening is really, it warms our heart to see those numbers go up and just know that there's people out there interested in what we have to say about these movies, whether new movies or classic, and just giving us time, the time of day. You guys are awesome, and we appreciate that. We are on other outlets such as Spotify, iTunes, wherever you can listen to podcasts. Be sure you check us out there and leave us a review and share. Tell your friends. That would be awesome. We have a Facebook group if you want to join in and be a part of the discussion. Just go to Facebook, go to search bar, type in the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. It is a closed group. Ask nicely. We will let you in. At least I will let you in. But be careful. Corey might be a zombie chained to a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Little Day of the Dead reference there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we have a TikTok, Midnight Monster 20.
Yes.
Right? I got it right? Hell yes.
Yes, you got it right.
You can check us out there. We'll be issuing updates and stuff on what we'll be doing as far as reviews and just, stuff that's going on. I know we've all been really busy. Corey's been working like a madman.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even had time to play Magic, and it makes me sad in the face. But yeah, we'll be keeping you updated on stuff we'll be doing and all that jazz. So be sure you just follow us and let's have a good old time watching some movies, reviewing movies. Let's do this. But
real quick, I don't mean to rain on your parade, but if you guys are on Letterboxd, check out Tony. Tony, what's your name on there? Because it's not just Tony.
Oh no. It's
what's your name?
It's just Antonio Arroyo. And it's Arroyo, Arrryo. I know I always have to spell it out because people are like, huh? Say that what? But yeah, it's my name, Antonio Arroyo, or Horace Bones 7.
Yeah. Or you can also search me and follow us and see what we're watching, because that seems to, Tony's actually got quite a few films on there, and I'm starting to get a collection going on there as well. So I believe I talked to you, Daniel, about downloading that too.
Yes, I will be getting one soon as well. I meant to get one last time we talked about it, but I ended up getting sidetracked and just never got a chance to get it. So I've been super busy. So I honestly been trying to get into stock markets lately. I did download Robinhood, but it's taking forever to verify. So that's that. But yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. I do need to download that. So
yeah, it's a nifty little app. It's really cool, dude. You can keep track of what you're watching. That way, you're like, huh, did I watch this before? You can just search. See, oh yeah, I did see that. So it would be like a rewatch thing or something.
Cool.
But yeah, keep track of everything you're watching when you're watching it. You can even rate them. Give it I think it's up to a 5-star rating, so you can give it 4 or 3, depending on whether you like the film or not. So yeah, a nifty little app.
Yeah, if there's any listeners out there right now listening, and you get into Letterboxd, let us know. We'll follow you. And if you want to share with the group or share on our social medias, including Twitter, I did forget to mention we do have a Twitter, monster_corner, excuse me, on Twitter. You can follow us there. Let us know if you've watched any movies and you reviewed anything, and we'll check it out. Let's compare reviews here. Spark a conversation. One man's 9 is another man's 6 or 7, and there's always reasons for that. That's why we're all different. We all have our own opinions. So, but let's definitely, let's get into it. Let's discuss. There's a fun little discussion going on now. For anyone listening, you can be a part of it in the Facebook group. Take a movie. You can only keep one actor from the movie, and everyone else is puppets. That's the discussion going on now, and it's actually really funny. A lot of people are saying Jurassic Park, keep Jeff Goldblum. I agree.
I could see that.
I can't be a puppet because I'm a fly. But yeah, that's a fun little discussion to have. Someone said Saving Private Ryan, keep Tom Hanks. I like that one. Although that would be really weird.
Yeah, it would.
That's not like a funny Muppet movie
No.
at all.
Oh, yeah, that would be.
So
It's no Christmas Carol.
Yeah. I could
Yeah.
think of how hilarious it would be to have like a Muppet melodrama. Just so
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Just takes itself way too seriously.
Way too seriously.
Love it, dude. Well, yeah, I think that's it for housekeeping. Without further ado, we move into our review of Day of the Dead. So, let's kick this thing off. It was filmed in 1985. In, I believe, Florida, right? That was like the major filming location. That was where Romero was living at the time, if I believe I read that correctly.
It's interesting that it doesn't in the movie, it doesn't take place in Pittsburgh, because I know, of course, Romero's got that Pittsburgh connection.
Right.
And it's cool. Like, it's a change of pace. It's like, especially the opening scene when the movie starts, and you see I think it was we were talking, it was Fort Myers is where opening scenes were shot. And yeah, definitely me and Corey were kind of pregame talking about it. You see the typical Florida things, like you see the alligators in the streets, and see some palm trees and stuff like that, so it's got to be in Florida.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to say I kind of made a connection, and I'm kind of curious as to what y'all's thoughts are on this. And since we're talking about the opening scene, so in the opening scene, they obviously fly down, and they're searching for survivors at this point. And there's this one scene where a newspaper article kind of flies up against the wall, and it says the dead are walking.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there's been homage, obviously, in the years after this film, for the simple fact that, like, 28, what is it, 28 weeks later, or it's 28 days later, excuse me.
Yeah.
You see some newspaper articles flying around in the abandoned streets there. And then
Yeah.
again in Resident Evil, where Alice wakes up at the end of the Resident Evil film,
Mm-hmm.
and she walks out into Raccoon City, and it says the dead are walking and stuff like that. There's like a newspaper article laying around.
Hmm.
So I'm
That's-
wondering if there's like some paid homage there to this film that's kind of uncredited.
Definitely.
Got to be. I think so too. I mean, it's like I said, when you think of Resident Evil the game, those guys were big zombie movie and horror movie fans.
Oh yeah.
And so I mean, you see a lot of that in game developers' works. Like Miyazaki, who did Dark Souls. Like, he's got a lot of influences. Like a lot of the creatures in the game resonate from like Japanese horror films, or even like Guillermo del Toro designs, with like the contorted creatures and stuff. Yeah. And same thing with Japanese, and so there's like a lot of homage paid in the games, as far as like stuff busting through windows and all. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's really cool. Little tidbit of trivia about the newspaper clipping in Day of the Dead. All the extras who played zombies in that particular scene, or maybe in the whole movie, or both, whatever, they were all actually given the newspaper that they printed for that scene. They all got to keep it as like a movie prop.
Cool.
So how cool would that be? Like in your man cave, you got the newspaper clipping hanging up. And it was like, yeah, I played a zombie in that movie.
That's pretty cool.
So cool. Yeah. So
I'd actually like to have that framed.
absolutely. Goals, man.
So in that scene, we obviously get to meet an iconic zombie from the film, Dr. Tongue.
Oh yeah, right underneath the title too.
Yeah.
Or yeah, he appears above the title, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
He's so cool though, man. Is the look, the missing jaw and the tongue's kind of hanging out and it just kind of slides out. It's just fucking awesome.
It
I
really
mean,
is.
he's definitely. I always because I have I'm not even a big action figure guy, but I have a figure of him and Bub both. So he's definitely cemented his icon status in the zombie world. He's got his own figure.
Yeah.
That's how you made it.
Mhm.
But he's wicked. He's wicked looking. Love that design.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's one of many. There's a lot of iconic looking zombies on display. So yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more. But he's definitely the standout for me. He pops up and like I said, right above the credit or right above the title, so you know what you're getting yourself into. Um, his design's cool.
Mhm.
Love that they used. Kind of wish he appeared more in the movie, but that's just like a pipe dream for me because I like the look so much. But unfortunately, he didn't.
Yeah, I agree. I would have loved to see more of him in the film. I wish they would have kind of held him off but I mean he works for that opening scene.
Yeah,
Um
I mean, of course, he wouldn't have been able to bite anybody or munch on anybody. He doesn't have a jaws. He would have
yeah,
been basically ineffective. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
you
really
know,
cool.
yeah, just have him like stumbling around in the background or something like that would have been a
Hmm.
nice touch.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool to see that too because when you go from like Dawn to Day, like Dawn had some pretty good special effects for its time. What
Oh yeah.
was it? So was it 79 came out?
Mhm.
So here we
Does
are, like 5, 6 years later, we get Day, and like you said earlier, it was Tom Savini at his peak.
I think so. Yeah, I think
And like
in his
the
prime.
yeah, the designs, not just the zombie designs, but the gore is just
Gore.
phenomenal in this movie,
It's remarkable.
and it shows like not even 5 minutes into the movie when you see that zombie, because I was really impressed. I was like, man, that's it's gonna be good.
Mhm. It sets the bar as far as zombie looks go. Like I
Right.
said, no, in Dawn we talked about the gray look to the zombies, and
Hmm.
um, with this one, I mean the tones just match. I mean, there's so much variety with the zombies too. Like and we're probably going to get into that too. There's a lot of personality with these zombies. A
Yeah.
lot of, and it's like simple little scenes that really drive that home. And you notice it more. But yeah, I mean, as regarding their look, they each have different, a different look. I mean, some of them are very similar, but I mean, they do try to make them stand out a little bit more.
Well,
Yeah.
in my opinion, this is kind of one of the first films that Romero did where it actually shows the different decomposition stages of the zombies. You got some of your fresher looking ones, and then you've got, like, for instance, Dr. Tongue, where he's obviously been a zombie for quite some time, you know. And that's what I
Mhm.
liked about this one. Just some of the background ones painted blue,
Yeah,
you know. So
absolutely, dude,
the
absolutely.
difference between the two films is amazing because it almost you can see an incline on certain creature or certain zombies from obviously Night of the Living Dead to Dawn of the Dead to now this there's
Right.
it's just built up. And I think that's honestly just experience of Tom Savini and his crew in this film.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, definitely learned a lot along the way. Even going into after Dawn, he did Friday the 13th and stuff like that. Like he did a slew of like slasher movies, so he really kind of experimented with a lot of things. And I think this was just the perfect time for him for him and Romero, for that sense, to do this movie in '85. Like it was the perfect time to do it. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad that they were able to work together again, and they have a good establishing relationship because they work so well together. I mean, I know Romero pretty much says, I'm gonna let Tom do his thing, whatever he wants to bring to the table as far as the effects go. I'm all for it. I'm completely open to it. And I'm like the fans. I want to see what he's got to bring to the table. And once again, he just doesn't disappoint. I mean, he kills it. Him and his whole effects team, like they just do such a fantastic job in the.
Uh-huh.
Well, from what I understand, there was a lot of open mindedness in this film because I believe there was a scene with Bub. Who was he played by?
Howard Thurman.
Yeah, Howard Sherman. At one point, kind of asked Romero if he could ad lib, if I'm not mistaken, a certain scene, and it worked. And from what I understand, Romero loved it. It was the scene where him and Dr. Frankenstein were with the headphones and stuff, and he was actually acting as a zombie.
Huh.
But yeah, I don't know how true that is, but I've heard about that where he pretty much allowed him kind of freedom as an actor there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry too. It's Sherman Howard.
Oh,
Yeah. I always, for some reason, I always mix up. Like I switch it. But yeah. Yeah, I actually got to meet him too. It was really cool. I asked him, kind of asked him about the scene where he's eating where he's actually eating the remains of somebody, and we were like, oh, I mean, what were you biting into and stuff? He's like, raw chicken, and it was slathered in like barbecue sauce, darker barbecue sauce, so it kind of looked like it had that blood look, that really vile looking blood look, so it kind of fit. But he's like, yeah, that's what I was, eating on. I was like, oh, cool.
Wow.
And
He's got a lot of TV credits too.
Yeah. He's a good guy, really nice guy too, super nice.
I was checking him out on IMDb. Apparently, he had like played in some episodes of Seinfeld.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was a goon, just a bad guy in Lethal Weapon 2.
I didn't know that. Wow. Did not know he was in all that.
Yeah, he just thought it was interesting, know, because you never know, like, unless you really look him up, you know what I mean? Because there's so many movies and TV series out there, and and it's all about connections. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you see a lot of Cronenberg's movies, especially his early movies, you'll see a lot of the same actors because he's like, well, why waste my time looking for other people when I can just hire these people?
Yeah.
And it's all right,
Right.
and it's constrained in budgets, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I think of this movie, though, man, when I think of this movie, I think of course, the location, the setting, the characters. The characters are so fucking great. I mean, there's so many awesome characters, so many quotable lines in this movie as well. Like just some off the wall shit that's said, and it sticks with you. You remember it. Even when I was watching it this time, I was just quoting a lot of stuff that they were saying.
Yeah.
I wrote down one. It says, "Whip it out, and that will bring them on."
Exactly what scene in particular that came from too. But yeah, man, especially those two. I mean, getting into the characters. You have, and I love that Romero did this where he structured it to where, you have two basic types in this bunker. You have the scientist team, and you have the soldiers and stuff, like the military personnel. And from jump, you can tell that they just don't see eye to eye. They don't get along. There's a lot of infighting going on. Lack of communication between both sides. I mean, they really can't stand being around each other, and it shows. The tension is so heightened in this movie. There's so many scenes in particular where I mean, if you're watching this for the first time, I can't imagine how you wouldn't be on the edge of your seat going, I wonder where this is going, or something like that. Like, because the tension's just built up to such a level.
Yeah.
That oh shit! Like, I really want to know where this is going. I want to see what happens.
Well, it doesn't help either when you have protagonists like Rhodes. It's just an absolute asshole.
Oh, he's so great at being an asshole, though.
Yeah.
He's so good at it.
Well, all of them kind of really are, and they're molded by their who was it? Their captain that had passed away. You obviously don't get to meet him
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he had already passed when they showed up.
Yeah. So Rhodes pretty much took over from, being like second in line. He pretty much just took over the team, or took over his band of military, and pretty much was almost, it got to the point where he was starting to become like the tyrant. Like he was telling everybody what they were going to do. He didn't care whatever opinion they had, or what they had to say. He was just like, listen, it's my way or the highway. I'm the one calling the shots here now. And, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. It's my show. So basically, he's pretty much from the beginning, he establishes his dominance over this group of like ragtag, just people, and he plays it so well too. It's amazing that he was, he had a small part in, depending on what cut you see, in Dawn of the Dead, where he plays like a police officer, and pretty much what was going on. The shit was hitting the fan. Everybody was kind of looting and kind of getting stuff, and then just going off on their own. But he plays one of the cops in that movie, and I know he didn't get a big scene, and I know in some initial cuts he was cut out completely. So I guess Romero said, hey, I want you, when he went to go, cast for it, he's like, all right, you're my guy. I want you. And he pretty much just gave him the role. And because I think Joe Pilato said, I didn't even really have to audition for it. He pretty much just handed it to me. Said, you got it. You're good. So, and it worked out fine because he fits his character so well, and his acting is so believable. Like, you really believe he's set that much of a tyrant.
Yeah.
He's great character.
I didn't like how loud he was. He was loud throughout the whole damn movie though.
He was definitely like, booming.
But the character of Rhodes, even though he's more of, would you say, protagonist? Would you agree to that? He's a protagonist.
Or the antagonist.
Yeah, the antagonist. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But just overall, I mean, I did find his character, interesting. But you just know with a character like that motherfucker's not gonna survive. Like there's no way that he can survive.
Yeah. And he's gonna suffer that. Like his death was gruesome.
Yeah, his death was amazing.
Like when his little crony got caught, and like they had that scene where his head just slowly got pulled off.
Well,
I was like, Jesus. I said that's his death scene. Lord knows what they're gonna do to poor Rhodes.
Torres. That you're talking about the Torres scene, right?
He's talking about Torres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony and I were actually talking about that before the show, and I really love that scene. Okay, so I really like some of the death scenes in this film, and in general, that one in particular, because as they're pulling his head away from his body, he's screaming, and it just gets higher and higher pitched because you can just almost hear like his voice box is just getting stretched and ripped.
That's why I love that particular death as much as I do, because the attention to detail and that little added touch is just brilliant. Love that.
It's gruesome.
Wouldn't have been as effective if they didn't add that little tidbit. It just wouldn't have. I mean, it would have worked. Aesthetically, it would have looked cool, but that just pushed it over the top with that little with extra, added, little sound.
Yeah.
Right. And then his mouth still moving when they pulled his head away, like
still like articulating, and still, it's just really badass, man. Like I said, Savini was killing it. Like he just, man, he was absolutely on top of his game. Can't say enough about it.
Well, not only did Savini work on this, but didn't Nicotero work on this as well?
Yeah, Nicotero worked on it, and he also starred as one of the military men.
Which actually blew my mind because I wasn't paying close attention, and the scene where they all have the meeting in the I guess you would say like mess hall or whatever.
Yeah.
That scene, that particular scene, I see Nicotero and I'm like, that's not Nicotero, is that? And sure as shit, that was,
Yep.
So that was cool. I like that.
And
Which, by the way, obviously, Nicotero is known for The Walking Dead and everything. And I'm kind of curious. There's another homage moment, obviously where Miguel gets bitten and he runs off, which we'll get into Miguel's character because I really want to tear that one apart. But but the but the scene where he runs off and Sarah catches up with him and lops off his arm with the machete, you know, instantly my mind went to The Walking Dead, and it was used in the scene where Herschel got bit, and and Rick like amputated him real quick, and I was kind of wondering as to if he kind of paid a little homage to this film for that.
yeah, I think so. I think Walking Dead pays a lot of it has a lot of callbacks today in particular. There's a lot of stuff that you'll notice in The Walking Dead. You're just like, oh, I've seen that before. I've seen that before. Yeah, I've seen that before. And it's pretty much like an appreciation where Nicotero has been around these guys for a long period of his career. So he's basically, it's like a sign of respect, Like that's why I don't. It doesn't feel to me like he's doing it out of like a straight rip off. It really feels more to me like it's a sign of respect. Like, hey, these are my roots. I'm calling back to these legends that have done it before, and I think that's where it comes from. I've seen a lot of that stuff in The Walking Dead. I've noticed a lot of it over the years.
Also, fun fact: that scene where Sarah goes to lop his arm off. Originally, they were using rubber, and she tried to hit it with the blade, and apparently it bounced off. It bounced back. So Savini opted to use wax instead, and it ended up working out. But that scene was gruesome because she didn't just chop it; she chopped it and then she pushed it down,
Sit down, yeah.
and then grabbed the blade and scooted the arm to the side. It was almost like
Well, I think they also
it made it a little bit more realistic because
yeah.
because she was rushing to get the arm off. She wasn't trying to make pinpoint chops with this machete. She was panicking, so she's essentially trying to get the arm off as quick as she can. So she just thinks, okay, or maybe the blade got stuck in the bone or something. So she just pushes it down, pushes the arm out of the way. I thought it was a cool little touch, as gruesome as it was. I thought that was really cool.
Well, and again, like you were saying, kind of, or I think Tony said it earlier, but it's a detail,
Yeah.
eye to detail. There, I think that they used a machete with a cutout of the arm as she was pushing down, because you see his hand moving, or his hand was pulsating and moving too. So I think that's maybe how they did that, and in my opinion, that just made that scene that much more effective to see his arm actually move like that.
There's a lot of stuff in that sequence in particular that makes it really effective. The fact that she jumps on it without hesitating and cuts off his arm, I love that. She's really quick and she's really smart, and she uses that to her advantage. And there's a lot of tense, like we talked about earlier, a lot of tense moments, and that whole lead up to where, after she did all that and after she has that run-in with the military guys, and they're wanting to shoot him, and she's like, no, don't, I got it in time. I got it in time. I know I did. And there's a lot of tension heightened there. And then at the end, when they call off and they leave, she has a moment where she stops and she just starts breaking down and she starts crying. And I think that's a beautiful little touch to her character, to where it escalates. You see that the tension is heightened so much, and that just punctuates it perfectly, that she breaks down because it was so tense and such a chaotic sequence that she just kind of loses it. She finally lets her guard down almost, because she has to not pretend to be tough, but she has to be tough. So she has a moment where she finally just lets her guard down, and I love that. That was a perfect little touch to her character. And I know, Corey, you're a big fan of her character.
I am. I'm a huge fan of strong female characters, especially in horror film.
So
And
like Xena, Warrior Princess.
She's like the Xena
exactly.
zombie princess, man.
But she really she's a really good female character. She's very strong.
She
Um,
definitely is.
she stands her ground, even up to Rhodes. Which is very scary because he's Rhodes and he's kind of commander in chief of everything. But she seems to like at one point I love it because like she's walking out of the room and he's like, don't you leave or whatever while I'm talking to you, and she goes, screw you, sir. And it's
Yeah.
like that right there, that
Mhm.
just made her character that much more powerful for me. So
Yeah.
Well,
I,
you know what's interesting about that, Corey? When you look at the progression from night to dawn to day, the female characters just get progressively stronger and more independent. Like you have Barbara in Night of the Living Dead, of course, where she's pretty much catatonic. She doesn't really do a lot to help. She's pretty much just there. And then you go from Franny to Dawn, which she has she gets tougher. She's like, I want to learn how to fly the helicopter. I want to do this. I want to do that. I don't want to be left out of the plans. And then you have, Sarah, who to me, even it takes a step above where she's really, really tough and she's really more of a scrappy woman. And she's, not taking shit from the military guys too. I love the progression through the films of the stronger female characters. Like they just keep getting stronger. And you can tell, especially when you watch them back to back to back, you can see it. Like it's more prevalent.
And not
yeah.
once did they make anyone a sandwich.
No, exactly. Fran
She
has
was
that
she wasn't a den mother.
right. Yeah, she has that moment where it's like she's like, I would have made you all breakfast, but I forgot my pots and pans or something like that. And I love Roger's character. He kind of like everyone else just kind of brushes it off, but he kind of like smirks and laughs about it. Really nice little touch. I know we're not talking about Dawn. We already did that, but yeah, brought that up. I kind of thought about that, but yeah, you could definitely tell the progression of the female character. It's awesome.
hmm
She's right there, a notch almost to Ripley. Like she's almost at that Ripley level.
Oh yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, you don't get much better than Ripley though, man. He's a badass.
Yeah, she.
I, the best review of Aliens I ever saw was somebody said, "Smart woman tries to warn everybody about Alien. No one listens to Smart Woman. Everyone dies except Smart Woman and her cat." At the end.
That's perfect. Oh
The
man.
moral of the story is listen to your women.
Yeah.
You will survive. Let's talk about Miguel.
Okay. Yeah.
What you guys think of him? Just his character in general.
Yeah, squirrely little dude. Not very
Yeah.
liked. Like, they allude to a history between him and Sarah. Maybe they were lovers. Maybe they were friends. Maybe they were friends who got a little horny, got a little close. But he was very on edge, man. Like, he was always so stressed out from all the things he'd seen. I don't know if the movie ever talks about him having like a close, close to death experience or what.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm gonna kind of backtrack that a little bit. So, in all the characters down in this bunker, okay, you see a certain and there's a reason why the soldiers are on edge with the scientists. The scientists are on edge with the soldiers because everyone's coming to the reality that they're potentially alone. That they're in a world of essentially no hope, you know. And I think that plays a lot into Miguel and his character because you see a man who's broken, who's lost it, and he's not coping with reality quite well,
right.
And her answer for it is to just basically drug him and put him to sleep,
Nope.
essentially. You know,
Yeah.
And
Temporary fix.
he calls her a bunch of names, and even like if you were suffering from anxiety and you needed sleep, and somebody put you to sleep, I mean, I would think that somebody would be a little grateful about that, but he was like, calling her names and just treating her like shit afterwards.
He was not happy.
To Yeah, to the point where she was just like, get out, and obviously their relationship was done and over.
Uh-huh.
Um, but
Well, yeah,
yeah,
even from the beginning, you could just tell that he's cracked. Like he's done. Like he's checked out. He's done. Because there's a moment where they're in the helicopter and the camera cuts to him and he's just like looking off in the distance and you're like almost like biting at his fists and like he's just checked out. You can definitely tell he's checked out. He's done. And I love that they established that early. And they, toward the end of what happens to his character, it kind of progresses even to where he confronts. There's a moment when they first get back, and Steele and Rickles, who are fucking awesome characters as well. They're just so fucking funny. They pull up and they're asking, how'd everything go? Did they find any survivors? Did they locate anything? What happened? And they're basically like, no, we didn't find anything. And they're like, well, they're kind of blown away by it. Like, really, nothing? How far up the coast did you go? She's like, oh, 100 miles, back and forth or whatever. And they're, so they basically have to do this thing where they have to they have like it's almost like a mousetrap, but they use it for the zombies. So they like trap like one or two zombies for our scientists to experiment on. And the soldiers are pretty much in charge of rounding up the zombies for the experiments. So he tells, Miguel, like, hey, you need to come with us. We need to go do a roundup real quick. And, Sarah's kind of fighting with them saying, look at him. He's on edge. He's not going to do you guys any good. He needs to, rest and relax. And they're like, hey, we're short of manpower as it is. He needs to come with us. So they're not having any of it. And this is set up from the very beginning that they're not on the same level. They're not willing to compromise. They're completely pitted against each other. And, she's like, he just can't do it. He can't do it. He gets upset with her and he's like, I can do it. And he jumps on and she's like, you know what? She's like, you can't go. You can't go. Anybody else could do it. They need to do it too. They need to go in your place pretty much. And you see Billy and John's characters just kind of leaving, walking away. And she gets pissed off. You can tell she gets to kind of, just jump, just say, hey, we'll do it. We'll volunteer, whatever. So she gets pissed off with them. She kind of has a look like she's mad with them. And, it goes to show like she's trying her best to kind of shelter him from the horrors that he is seeing and the horrors that he's dealing with for his own sanity, because she knows, I think in her mind, if he cracks, we're all in trouble. It basically, if anybody cracks and they lose it, everybody's in trouble. So I noticed that and I'm like, oh, that's a nice little touch too. And then it goes into Billy and John's characters, who those two are, some of my favorite characters. They basically don't volunteer because it's not that they can't. It's just that they don't believe what they're doing is right. So they refuse to. So they're, pushing back on the authoritarian society that Woods and his guys are pushing,
Yeah.
They're kind of like the anarchists.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I noticed that with the character. And then, of course, it progresses with his character. He kind of, she tries to dope him up. He's not having any of it. He fights with her. She eventually gets him and basically subdues him. He's out for a little bit. And, it like I said, when we get more toward the end and what his character ends up, what resolves his character and stuff like that, it's pretty tragic on his part, but he again brought it upon himself. He knew what he was doing. He was just, at that point, he had just become like suicidal almost. Like he was, we had checked out, just wanted to just get out of this whole situation.
Yep.
In a pretty selfish way, I'd say.
Well, I think the final straw for him was the fact that he lost his arm. Because at this point, it's like you already come to the realization that there is no hope, and then on top of it, how can you survive with just one arm?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I think he
maybe
was even pissed off about that too.
maybe he was vain. Maybe he just didn't feel like walking around without an arm. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there could be plenty of different directions you could take that. But I love that they kept it vague, and he just did what he did. It was really cool. Not everything has to be spelled out for the audience. The audience can be smart enough to figure stuff out on their own.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at the dude and tell he was going crazy,
Yeah.
that he had enough. I would say there's easier ways.
I thought about it too. He might have cracked and started losing it because his band of brothers, guys that are supposed to be with him, they're in the military, they're together. They treat him like shit, man. Yeah. They're so racist toward him, and they're always throwing racial shit at him, and just mentally breaking him down. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it too. Like on top of all the other stuff going on, like because they hammer on this guy. Like it's so. I know that in their mind they're joking with him, but I don't think in his mind he sees it as a joke. He really takes it to heart, and it's really effective. So
I don't know. They were being pretty blunt about it.
They were hammering it hard.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen that shit, but damn, like they were just like they were taking a particular interest in him. Like what all the man like, and they were even like hinting at like, Sarah's character, like they need to they need to pretty much like nail her and have, her, because she is the only, female in this whole scenario.
Yeah.
So they're very, very out there with their, just bluntness about, getting her in bed. And it's really shitty, man. It really is. When you look at their characters, yeah, they can be complete shitheads.
It's also a product of the world around them.
For sure. For sure.
And that's
absolutely.
Yeah. That's why, like, when you watch movies like this, you have to keep in mind, like, when someone does throw out a racial slur or they do, do something really fucked up, you got to remember, like, oh, this is the zombie apocalypse. Like, everyone's going crazy. Like, they've seen their friends and family die and get eaten alive. And, and so, I don't know. Critics don't ever take that into account, especially critics now, when you got this whole movement of cancel culture with, like, oh, he said one word in private to his friends and just let's cancel his career and in his life. So they're not keeping into account that, like, everything should be taken in context and everything's situational. And this movie is no different. You know what I mean? Like, should George A. Romero be canceled because of things he put in his movie? No. But we should look at it as art and know that, like, there's a reason why he put it in his movie. And
product of its time.
Yeah, and learn from it. You know what I mean? We talked about that with Cronenberg, like early to late 70s. He had a lot of weird stuff in his movies, but it was for the art form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it should be taken into account.
Well, getting into characters, what do you guys think about Dr. Frankenstein's character?
Oh, I wanted to bring him up just now, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
dude,
I love him.
Yeah, I loved him. I thought he was awesome. I mean, granted, once again, a nut that has cracked. You can definitely tell.
Yeah. Well, I could definitely tell this viewing, there was something that I never noticed before that I noticed and caught on to. And I'm like, yep, that pretty much solidifies that he has completely lost his touch with reality. And I never noticed it before, but I paid close attention to it. As many times as I've seen this, I didn't notice. This is why people, I'm telling you, rewatchability is huge. You have to, if you don't think you've caught everything, you rewatch a movie, there's some things you can still catch, and it makes it even more enjoyable. But there's one thing in particular that he did that I noticed, and I'm like, well, he's completely cracked. Yeah, he's lost it. There was one thing that he did, and it kind of, because I know you guys kind of talked about Reanimator. You guys did a Reanimator. We did the Reanimator show.
Right.
Like Herbert West, and I know these two movies came out the same year. Dr. Frankenstein likes to experiment with the fresher corpse, just like Herbert West does in Reanimator.
Yeah.
And I noticed that too, because of course it's fresher, so you're going to get more of an animated response that you're looking for in your experiments out of those corpses. So I thought that was pretty neat too.
Yeah.
That's another thing I kind of noticed. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It came out the same year. I mean, both kind of, well, different toned movies, but
Yeah, totally.
for
Yeah,
sure.
his character was interesting because you watch him work and at first you're like, okay, he's experimenting because he wants to find a cure, but then as you watch him, you're like, maybe he's just tinkering.
Yeah.
And even like that's the one
Harvest.
thing that that's the one thing that because like I believe that like Herbert West in Reanimator, he genuinely wanted to find a way to bring people back to life, albeit it's very risky, and he already seen the consequences of his experiments. This guy was just he was tinkering and playing and teaching the zombie tricks and
He was
Yeah.
well. Okay, so
Just-
beforehand, I think that Frankenstein was just genuinely trying to more or less have an understanding of what was going on. So that's the reason why initially he was experimenting. Whereas to Sarah was trying to find a cure, or
right.
she was trying to reverse it. She was trying to do something. And then the other doctor, I don't know what the fuck his place really was. He was like the help, I guess.
Mhm. It's hard
Only
to
know
find
what he
good
was.
help in the zombie apocalypse.
But so Frankenstein had an understanding of how it worked. He hooked up all the electric instruments to the brain, and he pinpointed what was being used in the brain still. So like the entire brain was dead except for one piece, and that was just basic instinct.
Mhm.
And it was explained because he was even like he had a zombie laying on the table with no organs in it, which I love that zombie too, by the way. But
Mm.
he's got all his organs ripped out of him, and he's still functioning, still moving, and still trying to bite.
Right.
But of
Which
course,
which makes sense too, because he says that, hey, they're not eating for nourishment, they're eating because it's their instinct to eat. Because
just 'cause you're
obviously,
just
obviously the zombie wants to attack, it wants to eat. The stomach just flops out of the zombie. It's not eating something for nourishment at all. It's eating because it's like an instinct. So yeah, I love that shit too, man. That scene was great.
yeah.
Great.
Which led up to, obviously, I don't want to get too far ahead, but obviously it leads up to our our famous zombie of the whole film, Bub.
Oh, bub.
But going back to Frankenstein and him losing it, isn't there's a scene where they turn on a tape recorder, and he's actually having almost like kind of a Norman Bates situation, just full on conversations with his mom.
That's the scene I'm talking about. That's the scene where I'm like, oh, yep, okay, he's fucking lost it, and that's the
Yeah.
scene I was getting to. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I
you
didn't
can
notice that before.
tell throughout all the different characters have lost it at some point, and you can see that throughout the entire film. And this is just another great example of someone who's lost it and is finally cracked.
Yeah.
Definitely did too, man. He was doing a lot of unethical shit.
Yes, he was.
heinous shit.
So you guys want to get into maybe the personalities of the zombies?
Okay.
I mean, the one that really stood out was definitely Bub.
Oh yeah,
Obviously.
yeah. He was the
I mean-
as Sarah said, he was the star pupil. He was the yeah.
He could shoot you in the leg and then eat you. Like that's terrifying.
his connection to Dr. Frankenstein was cool because it wasn't that he was trying to bite Frankenstein, or he wasn't trying. And even Sarah says it's interesting, not that he's kind of doing these things, but it's interesting more that he's not attacking Frankenstein and he's very relaxed around him, like almost like he's his buddy, and that he's that they built a connection and that they're friends and stuff like that. And and then the guy's like, oh, what, he doesn't view him as like his lunch or something like that. And she's like, that's what amazes me more than anything, because the guy is so unimpressed. He's like, well, listen, I've seen these things try to drive a car down, a highway or whatever. And he's like, it doesn't make me want to be its friend. And she's like, well, it's actually not attacking him and not looking at him as nourishment.
Yeah.
So he's doing something right in his own twisted way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, I don't think he so much thinks of him as a friend, as more so maybe even a father figure.
Yeah, a father figure, even like a surrogate father, for sure. Absolutely.
And case in point, and I know this is jumping way ahead in the conversation, but the scene where Bub is just tinkering with his chain and the bolt comes out and he's like, oh shit, I'm loose. And he goes and he finds, the Dr. Frankenstein, and he's like, look what I did. And obviously that's the turning point for Bub, because then he realizes that he's dead. It's almost like a son has lost a father and he loses his shit,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really cool, and I've said it time and time again with Romero films, and it's not just this one. It seems like Romero, ever since Dawn, has always done this with his zombies, where they've progressed into something smart. They're using their brains more, and that's what I love about this film. And as far as the personalities go, something that I've never picked up on, and I've recently picked up on this viewing, was there was a scene where two zombies were almost like kind of scared and just kind of looking at each other like, oh shit, what do we do? And it was the two quote unquote caged zombies, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
They were just they just kind of looked at each other like, oh shit, like, are we gonna get in trouble for this? What did we do?
Yeah, it's almost like kids, like because even Frankenstein's like, he turned the light off. He's like, you guys are just gonna be in the dark and think about what you did. Think, and he left them in the dark, and they're just kind of like, you're looking around like, oh shit, like we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could say Romero zombie films, he is considered the godfather of zombie films. And like a lot of his movies are very psychological too. Like it's not just about mindless zombies chasing you, trying to eat you. Like it makes you think. It really pulls you into like the human psyche and how people would act during an apocalypse. We saw that a lot in Dawn, and then this one it really expounds on that and shows you like, what if we take a look into the zombie psyche and realize that like they were people once, and like their brains, they were dead and they're alive again, and their brains and their nervous system and everything's just working so differently. And so like, enter Bub, who's been this experiment, and we're able to learn a lot from Bub. Like he remembers how to shoot a gun, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And he's actually a very good shot, better than Flyboy from Dawn, I must say. and apparently he had a history or background in military, hence the salute that he does. He knows how to operate a gun, so he was trained at some point in his life, and it was all kind of coming back to him.
What I love. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Even the little added touch with him, like with the razor and trying to shave, kind of speaks on that a little bit more as well. But yeah, sorry, Corey, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, what I was going to say is the scene where he salutes Rhodes and Rhodes pulls the gun on him, and he ends up obviously Dr. Frankenstein hands him an unloaded gun, and he points it at Rhodes, and he actually pulls the trigger, and then he kind of gets confused, like nothing happened, and he actually checks to see if the clip is in the gun.
Yeah.
So I mean, that just goes to show right there,
It's wild, dude.
what a neat added touch, in my opinion.
And Bub actually speaks, man. This is the first time you really see like a Romero zombie say something. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I know that was a pretty big moment, to have him say that, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really,
That's
just in general, I really love the thought process behind Bub's character.
Yeah. Because I know you're big. I know you're huge on the evolution of the zombies and what they're becoming. It's not stagnant with him. Each movie he brings something new to the table with the zombies. So it's really, really refreshing almost when you're watching a Romero film, especially when you watch them in order, like from of course night to even as far as like land, just to watch them like that, just to see the progression. It's amazing. He's able to do that, and in almost in each decade too. Like I know he missed the '90s. I know I brought that before, but it's. I mean, like I said, these films are always, obviously products of their time. They're prevalent. Excuse me. And even today, you look at something like this, and it's still prevalent. I mean, especially with what we're going through as a society, people aren't seeing eye to eye. People aren't willing to compromise. People aren't willing to get on the same page. It's like, oh, I mean, that's just human nature, and he got perfectly with the dead. So, it's kudos to him. He's always been able to do it. I've always respected him for being able to do it. I wish I would have got a chance to tell him that when we met him, but that's just another thing. I'm, gonna be look back and say, damn, I wish I would have done that. Yeah.
Well, I think when you and I met him, we were really starstruck.
Oh, for sure. I will fully admit that.
Yeah.
Because he is a larger than life, personality. Not personality. I'm not gonna say that like he's very loud and no, he's not at all. He's a very calm and very very smart individual, and he's just you see him and you know what his legacy is and stuff like that. Of course, you're gonna get a little kind of starstruck. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So.
Yeah. Yep. Going back, here's a little tidbit that and again, noticing something with this film on this viewing that I never caught on before. I think there was a kind of a scuffle down in the bunker. I guess what is it? It's not caves. I guess the corridors
Yeah, the
they were
bunker. Yeah.
where they were duking it out.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I think it was Rhodes or Steele, one of the two, um, hollered at John and didn't call him John. They called him Flyboy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know who I was telling that to, but it was like, holy shit. They just referenced Dawn of the Dead there?
Dude,
Yeah, I think that was direct homage, definitely.
they
Yeah.
did it again. They did it again too with Billy's character when he's saying something about all the shopping malls are closed when he's making a joke. I'm like, oh, they did it again. That was another one.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause John was the designated helicopter pilot, which is why they didn't kill him initially, because they needed him. He was the only one that could fly, and they called him Flyboy. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, his
And then,
his character was interesting too. Apparently, Tony Todd had auditioned for that
Wow.
role, but I don't think he was able to land it. I think due because of the budget restraints.
I like what you did there. He couldn't land it.
Oh, land it! I didn't even
do that, but it worked
say
out
that.
pretty good.
I mean, I totally meant to make that joke. Is what I meant to say.
No, he you know what, honestly, I don't think I could see Tony Todd in that role though. Tony Todd's more of a creepy, Sly character. I don't think he would have
And
been.
he's too big to fit in that little helicopter.
I was gonna say, man, he's a big boy, tall guy. But yeah, he oh, another one too is when you get of course John and Billy's character, they kind of have like they don't live in the same complex as everybody else. They kind of they kind of live off on their own, but they kind of have the same thing that the characters in Dawn had, where they made their own little paradise, away from everybody else, which I thought was pretty cool. It's another little kind of unintentional. Well, it might have been, I don't know, a little nod to Dawn in that regard, because they have their own little their house they made up and stuff like that. It's really cool. Their own little paradise is what they call it.
Right.
But it's really, really cool. Really cool. I just like those two characters so much. I really do. Because it's not like they're not wanting to help. They just really, truly in their hearts do not believe in what everybody's doing. They don't believe in this whole trying to experiment, trying to figure this shit out almost. He's like, listen, shit's going down. We have to take what time we have and restart a population and restart society. Like, that's what we should be doing. That's what we should concentrate all our efforts on. So, yeah, dude, it's like I said, it's I always gravitate more toward them because that's how I would be. I'd be like, listen, man, trying to figure this shit out. We're never gonna figure it out. Like, there's some stuff that human beings aren't meant to figure out. Like, we just have to be able to adapt. And that's basically what their characters were. They were like you have one side of the coin, the other side, and then you have the middle, who's kind of like passive and just wants to go with the flow and trying to survive essentially without having to bicker and fight and go through all these trials and stuff like that. And that's who I gravitate. I mean, I don't know. I gravitate more toward that than anything, really.
Yeah.
But their characters are fun. I like their characters. They have really, really great lines of dialogue too, especially John's character.
Oh, the banter between the two is amazing. It kind of reminds me of it really kind of reminds me of oh gosh, what's Peter and
And Roger, yeah.
Roger, you know?
Yep. It kind of really it really does, honestly.
I like the scene where he goes to drink out of his flask, and then he like gets attacked, beats the shit out of the zombie, picks his flask back up, and it's like completely empty. And he like looks at it for a second, and then just kind of drops it, and runs off.
I do too, man. They definitely establish him as being that drunk. Well, not drunk. He's a functioning alcoholic. Let's just say that.
Yeah, very functional.
Yeah,
and he has a really cool shovel kill.
Oh yeah,
which was cool because not only did he do what now?
Oh, I was just gonna say that edit just comes out of nowhere because they're scuffling and stuff, and all of a sudden, boom, the shovel just hits him in the mouth. It's amazing how they were able to do that. It's just that edit was great. It's so unexpected.
Yeah. And then he actually pries the head in half, and the top of the head goes rolling, and they run off. You can see the zombie eye still moving. That was a really cool touch.
Ooh, yeah. They're kind of shifting back and forth.
What they were able to do with their budget, though, was just phenomenal. I feel like a lot of the budget did go into special effects, but what they were able to do with what they had, was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it really paid off. And this apparently was the least grossing movie out of the trilogy, but ended up gaining traction years later. As fans got more and more into horror movies and zombie movies and discovered who Romero was and all. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and later on, like obviously we'll discuss it here in a little bit, but even the special effects department kind of took a budget cut too, using some of the same props and stuff. But we'll get into that because I know Tony's wanting to talk about that too. You know what I'm talking about, Tony?
Yeah. As far as the budgets, yeah.
Well, I was talking about the bucket of rotten guts and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Old pig intestines.
Yeah. So basically, well, I guess we can kind of talk about it because we're close to the end here. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As well.
So obviously, there's a scuffle between Rhodes and Bub at this point. Bub's gone completely apeshit because, like, he found Frankenstein dead, and at this point, Miguel has now let all the zombies in, which I want to talk about that too. The elevator scene is something that I wish could have been a little bit better. I really love the thought process behind that elevator scene. Like, so basically, Miguel goes up top, opens the gate, allows all the zombies come in. Seems like possibly 1,000 or so zombies, just a whole horde of them,
Lord.
and then lays down on the elevator floor as they crowd him, and then releases the button to where the elevator goes down. And then at this point, as the elevator's coming down, I kind of wish they had a moment where there was still some zombies up top and they were just falling in from up top.
Right.
That would have been
I
really
wish
cool.
that would happen because zombies, they don't know. They're like, oh, there's a hole. I'm just going to walk towards it and just fall.
Right.
I would have loved to see, a bunch of zombies falling in as that thing's coming down as well.
Well, we did see the zombie trip and fall. Like, that was
That shit was
He
hilarious.
was like, I'm going to be the first one off, and then just fell
bloop.
flat. I wonder if that was pure accidental or not.
I wonder if it was ad lib, like
Maybe.
I don't know if it was or not,
improv.
but
Yeah,
it worked.
I liked it.
It's funny as hell. Oh yeah, but it's terrifying when you see them coming down from that platform. You see them all coming, and the soldiers are like, "Oh shit!" Like it's about to go down. We gotta fucking run, and they haul ass, man. And Rhodes is like, "Fuck you guys," and he just takes off on the golf cart.
Yeah.
One might say he hit the road.
Rhodes,
Mhm.
dude, man, he fucking took off on that little golf cart. It was kind of funny just to see him kind of speed off on it. And
Yeah, that little golf cart didn't even make a noise. You didn't hear like they usually make like that little hover sound, and that thing was just it was just moving, man.
yeah, dude, it definitely was.
And then he hit that one zombie with it, and like didn't even stop it. That's a hell of a golf cart.
Well, you
And then he
notice, too, I
ran
noticed
inside
too,
and locked himself in.
especially with Miguel's death, like when a lot of the soldiers and stuff, they're really religious, man. Because when they're dying, they do like the sign of the cross, and then they do like, yeah, I noticed that too. I'm like, because he does it, and then Steele does it too before he shoots himself, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Think about, but yeah, I noticed it too. I'm like, huh, I don't know why I never picked up on that before, but yeah, they're definitely. I thought that was pretty interesting.
I like Rickles' death too because Rickles was like
Did he?
hysterically laughing.
Yeah,
So he was partying, man.
I mean, to each their own. I mean, but yeah, he was, dude. He was like getting a kick out of it for some. I don't know. Maybe he just finally cracked too. I don't. I have no
He was
idea.
gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You could definitely tell. That moment hit him, and he was just like, I don't. I'm going down. I'm going down with like in a blaze of glory. And he did too. That whole rip with his forehead and the eye was exposed. That was pretty cool.
Mm,
I
yeah,
kind of
that was very neat.
such, yeah. The eyes just bulging out of his skull.
So back to now Rhodes, and Rhodes is like kind of running through corridors, and there's zombies everywhere. And he goes into like the little armory, pulls out guns. Why? If I was Rhodes in that situation, I would have just kind of hunkered down in that room and just took out zombies as they were coming through. But in his situation, I don't know, he just decided he was going to try and make a run for it, and comes in contact with Bub, and Bub starts firing upon him. He couldn't load his gun fast enough.
We're getting to Rhodes and his demise.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously he comes across Bub, and now Bub is now firing upon Rhodes and hits him a couple times. And might I add, he's a really great shot.
Really good shot, especially with a hand. Like he's
yeah. And then initially Rhodes gets to the door, and I don't know, like he doesn't realize that there's going to be zombies outside the door.
yeah.
Then magically opens the door and tons of zombies, and he starts screaming, and that's when he turns around and Bub shoots him in the gut.
Yep,
And
right
he
in the gut.
falls. Yeah, and they like start tearing him apart at this point. They grab him, start tearing him apart. And then Bub salutes him and just kind of wanders off, you know.
Just walks off. Yeah.
And you kind of wonder like what happened to Bub. I would have loved like a little short or something of Bub's story afterwards, you know. But you're left wondering where Bub went off to. But
He
back to
wanders off into the woods and actually discovers Bigfoot. And him and Bigfoot become good friends, and it's just this whole adventure story of them two.
I would like to see that. Why didn't I?
Yeah, right?
this would be amazing.
Welcome.
But yeah, so now I've opened up obviously to the story. Tony, I know what you're talking. You know what I'm talking about when it comes to the guts and everything.
Yeah. So
Even though-
apparently these. Oh, sorry, dude. You were a segue into it. Apparently they were actually really real intestines. I think they were pig intestines, and they had kept them in a refrigerator. But I think one of the crew members unplugged the refrigerator so that when they went to shoot the scene, all the entrails and stuff were rotten. And apparently the smell was so bad that it made like the crew that was shooting the scene, everybody involved, like almost physically sick because the smell was so terrible. and even Joe Pilato said like he still has flashbacks of that smell, and he can still smell it to this day. Like, up until he passed away. Sadly, he passed away not too long ago, but said he still struggled with that smell. Like it still crept up on him sometimes, and he remembers it very vividly. So yeah, that was just a terrible. Like, I feel really bad for all the crew members involved.
Well, so from what I understand, the story has it is basically they used a facility in Pennsylvania where it's like a storage facility, like an underground bunker, and basically military and rich people. And to this day, that bunker's still there, and people use it to store stuff in. But from what I understand, they got done filming some scenes in there, and they went to Florida to shoot the Florida scenes. And then I guess when they came back, which was like 2 to 3 weeks later, it turns out that refrigerator had been unplugged for like 2 to 3 weeks. I guess somebody was like, "Why did they leave this plugged in?" So they unplugged it, and that shit just sat there for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh.
So, yeah. It's just you know, honestly, I really feel for like the zombies because they had to dig in that, they had to put that in their mouths and everything else, and it's like, man, it's pretty grotesque. I wonder if like the look on his face, because he almost looked like he was getting sick as he was being ripped apart.
Probably wasn't acting. That was probably just genuine.
That's what I was wondering.
Choke on it.
Which I love that he actually apparently he ad-libbed that line.
Talking shit to his death.
Which is so fitting to his character. It's so fitting to his character because he was just that guy, you know?
Yeah.
So it completely made sense. I think that's why he ad-libbed it, because he's like, fuck, this guy's a vile dude. Like, I'm just gonna go out like as a badass, and because I think he viewed himself as the ultimate badass. So what more badass way of going out is just telling zombies to choke on your guts while they're ripping them out.
He wasn't a badass. He was just an asshole.
Well, yeah, but I think in his mind he views himself as the ultimate badass.
Sure,
you know
until he was running like a little bitch.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Even down to his demise, he was taunting Bub because at one point he got shot at this point he'd got shot a second time by Bub,
Oh,
and
Yeah,
he's now leaned up against the wall and screaming, "Come on!" or something.
yeah.
Mhm.
Skating before him,
Once again, Rhodes being loud.
Mhm.
which is consistent through the whole movie.
Yeah. But and then all obviously leading up to the ending, Sarah and John and what was it, Bill? I think it was
Yeah,
Bill.
Billy.
Um, obviously make their escape, and then they end up on an island. She wakes up from a
Another
dream.
dream.
Yeah, and that's when she wakes up and you see like them on an island, and obviously John's out fishing. That's the end of the film. And I thought that the ending was very fitting. It was almost like they just kind of got away from everything.
Everything
Yeah.
else that led to it was so bleak and just depressing and gloomy and stuff like that. And then you have a happy ending, like a more upbeat ending. Yeah, it was fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to point out real quick before we finally end this episode and everything, or get to the ending of this episode. One thing that I mentioned down or jotted down in my notes was the fact that there's something that happens throughout this film that I think this is the first time I've seen from Romero, and maybe I stand corrected. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, but the jump scares. At this point, I'd never seen jump scares really come from Romero too much. And
Yeah, that scared the hell out of
a
me.
few. But yeah, there was quite a few in here. Obviously from the first the first scene that you see where she's just in a room where there's no doors, and then she walks up to the wall the wall, and then there's a calendar, and then the arms pop through the wall,
So good.
and then there's a couple more jump scenes throughout the film, and then the ending there's another jump scare, and that's something that I don't remember ever really seeing in Ramirez's previous films. Tony, can you elaborate on that?
I
Have you
mean,
seen any more jump scares from him previous to
um,
this?
not totally, not completely, but I mean, it is like I said, it's an '80s movie. The '80s were heightened on that, like a lot of like those fake out scares and stuff like that. Like that was really really big. So the fact that they're included in this movie doesn't really surprise me whatsoever. But the fact of the matter is, they're effective and they're not cheap. They're
Yeah.
earned.
Yeah,
That's what I appreciate so much about them.
Well, yeah, you don't really see them coming either. Like I didn't see the one in the helicopter coming at all.
Yeah.
And
That
it
was
happened, and I was like, "Whoa, that was good. You got me." I'm gonna go change my pants.
right.
Almost dropped some dirt in my Dorothy skirt.
Oh god.
We landed this plane.
That's a first. Heard that one before. Oh, we landed the plane?
We're landing the helicopter.
Nah. Okay. Yeah, that's more fitting.
We're landing this helicopter, flyboy.
We'll fly. Ah, you beat me to it.
Well, real quick before we do.
Nope, too late. We are landing plane. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, I was gonna say, we never really give ratings and stuff like that, and because I'm on Letterbox and stuff like that. I was gonna kind of just shout out to how many stars I gave it on Letterbox. Um, and Tony, you can kind of let me know too, or let everyone know, because I don't know if you do it or not, but I gave it 4 stars out of 5.
Hmm.
Just because for some reason, I gave 5 stars to Dawn, but I thought that it was more strategically done and stuff like that. That's the reason why I kind of resonate more towards Dawn. But this one is good film. But as far as rewatchability, in my opinion, I pop Dawn in a lot more than I do this one. But maybe I need to start watching this a lot more because I picked up on a lot more stuff than I had in the past.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Rewatchability for this one's huge. Yeah, I on Letterbox you go from a half a star to a 5 star. So I went ahead and rated it personally a 5 star because this is my favorite Romero film. So yeah, it's obviously going to get a 5 out of 5 for me. No question. It definitely has the tone that I love in my zombie films. I love like really dour and kind of bleak and it fits that for me. It does it well and the characters are just so memorable. And the setting, it's almost like a character in and of itself as the setting, the bunker. Like they explore that bunker a little bit, and you're like, wow, this is really neat. You get sucked into it.
Mm.
All of it works for me. Like character, setting, tone, the effects. I mean, they're brilliant. So I cannot not give this movie a 5 star out of 5. So yeah, I gave it a 5.
Okay,
Mm.
nice.
Yeah. And
Well,
I also gave Dawn a 5 too. So it's a classic. So you can't not give it a 5. So
okay. Well, I think I'm ready to land it now.
Well, let's land it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. We appreciate you listening. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on our YouTube. Listen on multiple audio outlets such as iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and more. Be sure to leave us a review. That would help us out a lot. We appreciate that. Tell your friends. Join our Facebook group. Real quick, I have to share these because these are too funny not to share. But I've got a couple on my page, and I got a couple on our actual Midnight Monster Corner podcast page. But so if you're part of the group, I want to hear yours, as these are so funny. Pick a movie, keep one actor. The rest are played by Muppets. I said Back to the Future, keep Michael J. Fox. Alien, keep Sigourney Weaver. That would be hilarious. Die Hard, keep Bruce Willis.
oh yeah.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, keep the squirrel. uh, let's see. Midnight Master Corner. I wasn't going to share this, but I had to because I was looking through some of them. They're so funny. Friday the 13th, keep Betsy Palmer.
Yeah.
Fight Club, keep Marla Singers, excuse me. The Godfather, keep Al Pacino. The Addams Family, keep Al Pacino. The Addams Family, keep the Addams Family, keep Raul Julia. 28 weeks later, keep the dad.
Oh,
I know, that's what I said.
You know what? A good one. American Psycho. Keep Patrick Bateman or Kristen Bale.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so funny.
Especially with the business card scene. Oh my god.
I was thinking the sex scene where he's flexing in the mirror.
Oh, that too. Yeah, dude, that would be
Yeah,
fucking.
that'd be so funny.
that's great.
Boondock Saints were the only characters with the phone.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, go to our Facebook page, leave yours in the comments, see what you got. I think those are really funny. I'm a big Muppet fan, so it'd just be funny to see those. But yeah, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and everything we covered at the beginning of the show. We do appreciate you listening, and we're going to continue Zombie Week next week with what movie? Return of the Living Dead.
Hell yeah.
Which is one of Corey's personal favorites.
It is.
So it is a good one. So with that being said, unless y'all have anything else to add, we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, everyone.
Later, guys.
Peace.